so hot. It's so hot that I've resorted to flapping and wafting myself with a copy of Cosmopolitan. Oh look, I think, oh yeah, it's the one I'm in. So it's summer here in the UK and it's hot. Everybody is dying because us Brits are not equipped to deal with the summer at all. We can't deal with the heat, we can't deal with the sun, we definitely can't deal with making important decisions about whether we should stay in the European Union, but that's another matter. Anyway, that's enough moaning and shenanigans from me. Summer's really important to us fragrance nerds, fragrance heads, perfume people, sniffers? No, that sounds dodgy. People who like perfume, because we get rid of our sort of winter wardrobe, we throw it away, put it away to the back of the cupboard for another year, and pull out our summer scents. And often we're kind of driven to go for like citrusy things, colognes, that kind of stuff, fresh, invigorating fragrances to deal with the heat. But there are alternatives, and you can actually rock some pretty heavy stuff during summer. So for this video, I'm going to go through 6 scents for summer 2017. They're all launches from this year, except for one, which I think I've snuck in sneakily. That was a 2016 launch, but hey, it's my prerogative to do that if I want. And they all show how you can wear something a little bit different this summer. So the first fragrance that we're going to be looking at for summer 2017 is my absolute favourite launch of the year so far. Something may come along and knock this one off the top of the list, but it's going to have to do really, really well. This is Eccentric Opal from Eccentric Molecules. Now, if you know Eccentric Molecules, you know that what they do is they basically release fragrances in binary pairs. So they have fragrances that are molecules, which are simply aroma chemicals diluted in alcohol. But they also, alongside that, will release an eccentric fragrance, which contains the molecule that they're featuring, but at a high dose within another composition. So, for example, you have molecule 01, which is ISOE Super, that's quite famous and people tend to really, really like that one. This one is the binary pair 04, and this is the eccentric version, which is all around the material called Javanol. And Javanol is a sandalwood molecule that kind of smells fresh. It's got a metallic edge to it, but also a real soft milkiness and just a hint of the nuttiness that makes sandalwood so lovely. Eccentric 04 is super, super fresh. So smelling Eccentric 04, what you'll notice first of all is a massive whack of grapefruit, and it's that kind of real acerbic, almost sulfuric, really sort of bitter grapefruit. And it's got kind of, it's almost got a sort of a hash or a marijuana feel to it that adds sort of an unusual green feeling. There is a pepperiness and an underlying sharpness that really kind of elevates everything. So you get a lot of refreshing citrus feelings to it. The Javanol itself is quite metallic, but what I really, really like about the fragrance is you've got all of that going on, all that sharpness, the biting feel of the grapefruit, the metallic of the Javanol, and then this weird sort of milkiness that sits underneath that really kind of comes along and sort of like a waterfall smashes everything out of the way. And it makes for a really interesting fragrance. It has huge lift, you can smell it for miles, but it's so refreshing, and on sticky summer days, there's nothing better. So that's Eccentric 04 by Eccentric Molecules. Awesome stuff. We're starting off relatively traditional because we had Eccentric 04, which is, you know, an interesting citrus fragrance with some nice woody things going on in the background. The next thing we have is a cologne, but it's a more unconventional cologne from none other than the house of Mugler. So this is Hot Cologne. Now, Hot Cologne comes from the Mugler niche line, which is called Les Exceptions. And the idea behind this collection of fragrances is that it takes standard themes, the olfactory families we know and love so well, so florals, sheep, fougere, etc., and twists them, adds an element of olfactory shock, an unusual note that sort of changes them to be something new entirely. So obviously Hot Cologne is interpretation of the Eau de Cologne. And this one is so weird. It's like a massive like shaving of lime skin, getting all that pith and rind off, and underneath it like dark, bitter black coffee. So you get a lot of dewy citrus. There's bergamot in there for sure, and some lemon, but a real hit of lime. But then this really almost toxic feeling coffee that, I don't know, it kind of really clashes. And I think that's something that Mugler always does really well. They're not looking for synergy as such. They're looking for those interesting materials that pull a fragrance apart and give it a sense of discord. What's really great about this is you kind of have that lovely freshness at first of all. It feels dewy, you feel kind of cool and refreshed in it. But then you've got something that's much darker, which makes it more interesting to smell. But actually, the coffee itself isn't hot coffee. It's like iced coffee. So it's like some wanky frappuccino you'd probably buy from Starbucks somewhere that they'd, I don't know, dye green and sell on a special occasion. But it's Mugler, so it's much cooler than that. I really like it. This is the one that launched technically last year, but I think was more available in stores this year. And I think it's one of their best ones within the Les Exceptions collection, and one definitely to seek out, especially if you like colognes, especially as well if you like the Mugler cologne, which is kind of similar in style. You get a lot of the steaminess and the greenery that's in Mugler cologne, but this feels much more in depth and a lot more unusual. So do check it out. No summer scent roundup would be complete without a floral. One of the best florals for summer is orange blossom because it's so refreshing and so luminous. This year, L'Artisan Parfumeur have released a beautiful orange blossom which is called Histoire d'Oranger. This one takes all different elements of orange blossom. So you get the orange blossom flower itself, you get the petigram, which comes from the leaves, and the neroli as well. And what you end up with is a really clean orange blossom. So it's like smelling, I don't know, the word that comes to mind is the word pure. I feel like this is really pure. It's not a laundry fragrance as such. You don't think of like clean cotton, but it's certainly got a whiteness to it. It's almost like olfactory whiteout, almost like you're looking up at the sun and it gets so bright all you can see is the lens flare. That's what I imagine when I smell this. It has a lot of musk in it, so it does use musk really to power the fragrance through. So when you're smelling it, you're getting a nice crispness from the sort of the neroli, sort of a wateriness, but then you do have the headiness of the flower in there that gives you almost a honeyed vibe. As it dries down, it really just goes through to like a gauzy, fuzzy musk. There's just maybe a touch of vanilla or something sweet in the base, but it's one of those fragrances that is just a cloud. So you can spray on a ton of this, and it's just big and diffusive, but it's never overbearing. And I think it's one of the nicest things that L'Artisan have done, but also one of the more simplistic things. So it's kind of a crowd pleaser, which is never a bad thing. I think they're going to get a lot of success with this one because it is so easy and so nice to enjoy. So those first three fragrances that we looked at were pretty traditional summer fragrances. You had a floral, you had a cologne, and you had something that was citrus heavy. Each one slightly unusual, giving a different twist on it, but pretty standard. What we're going to look at next are three fragrances that kind of would not be your first picks for summer, but still really, really work. So, this may surprise people who follow my blog, because I don't think I've ever reviewed anything from this brand before, because they're not well known for being the best fragrance makers in the world. But this is from Dolce & Gabbana. I actually really like this one. This one's called Velvet Cypress. Again, it's a niche one from their like exclusive collection. It's quite lovely. So it's a green fragrance. Sidebar, I don't really like green fragrances. I often find that they're quite harsh. They can be quite acrid. They can be really, really dry. They kind of give you that scratch in your throat that makes you want to take a drink of something. I know they can be beautiful. You know, Chanel No. 19 is a classic. It's super green. It's the type of thing that you'd want to wear if you were filming a scene from Working Girl, but to date I've not had to do that, so it's not really my thing. But green has had a real resurgence over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and we're noticing people coming out with lots of interesting green things that are jungly or sappy or slightly urban, which is really cool. And I've done a piece on that on my blog, so if you head to my blog and search for It's Not That Easy Being Green, you'll find a nice piece about some really cool green fragrances that do something a bit different. Anyway, so back to Velvet Cypress. This is green. It's a natural kind of green. It is a bit dry, you kind of feel like you're smelling dried leaves and twigs and some grass. Perhaps like in some like luxurious Italian manner or something. Maybe that's just the power of suggestion that I'm getting there from the fact that it's Dolce & Gabbana. But I really like it. It's kind of got a Prada-esque feel. So you know the Pradas tend to be quite fizzy and luminous and have that kind of irisy champagne vibe to them. I feel like this is kind of piggybacking on that a bit. So you do get sort of like a woody tree that maybe you're sipping a nice Bellini underneath, sat on the grass with your loved one. That's a nice idea, actually. Anyway, I really like this. So the penultimate fragrance in our sixth sense for summer 2017 comes from Penhaligon's. It's from their Trade Routes collection. It's this one, which is Agarbathi. So the Trade Routes collection is inspired by the ancient trade routes, as you may have guessed. So what it does is it takes exotic ingredients that would have come through the trade routes into London's docks and sort of picks them as inspiration from the countries they're from. So they've visited lots of different places. They've done a fragrance that's based on a tea clipper. They did a really beautiful oud, which was inspired by boats that go down the Nile with beautiful sort of cotton white sails. Agarbathi and its sort of companion scent Paithani are inspired by India. So Agarbathi is an incense fragrance because Agarbathi is a type of incense burnt in temples in India. And it's kind of an unconventional incense fragrance, actually. I think that it's quite lovely because it adds a sort of milky warmth to incense. Incense sits on a kind of a wide spectrum with two sort of polar ends. So on one end, you can have the really gorgeous, warm, almost gourmand incenses, for example, Mirabilis by L'Artisan Parfumeur, or you can go and have like those really austere, cold incenses, for example, like Zagorsk by Comme des Garçons, or even L'Eau Froide by Serge Lutens. They either sit at one end of those. This, I think, is on the warmer side, but it's kind of in the middle. There is a coolness to it. You get the impression of cold smoke sort of blowing through a temple. There's a real strong sandalwood note in there, which adds that lovely creamy, almost spicy nuttiness. Some cardamom too, which is obviously instantly evocative of India. But what I think is really fascinating about this is the fact that they've used milk. And milk is featured in both fragrances as quite a strong accord. The perfumer behind the fragrance is a guy called Alex Lee, and to create that milky vibe, he's used a material called sulfurol, which adds volume but also an intense creaminess that kind of contrasts the warmth and the incense smoke side of the fragrance. I think it's really, really lovely. And what's fascinating is it dries down to something quite fruity, so you get some nice like dried fruits. I'm wearing it now, and I've been wearing it for a couple of hours. So after all the woody stuff kind of dissipates, you get a soft, fruity incense, which is really quite colourful, and I like that. So this would be good for wearing in the summer because you feel really like you're in some exotic lands when you're wearing it, and that's what summer's about, really, isn't it? The one type of fragrance that we've not covered that is quite prominent during summer is the aquatic or the oceanic fragrance. That would be because I'm not a big fan. The 90s are over, and they want their cool water back. So it's not really a current trend, I think. And marine kind of tends to smell sporty, which makes me think of changing rooms during PE lessons at school, which sends me into a sort of spin of anxiety, and that's not really good for recording a YouTube video. So that's why I haven't included it. So I've gone for something that takes one olfactory family and gives it a marine twist. So this is new from Tom Ford. It's for the latest of his private blends, and it's called Oud Minerale. You can disagree with me if you like, but I think oud is our latest olfactory family. I think it's past the trend now. It has so many different variations, so many offshoots, that we can consider it to be its own family. So this is an aquatic oud. I really think it's quite interesting because we're so often seeing oud being exotic. It's paired with rose, it's either got leather with it, and it's kind of smoky, cypriol heavy. And this is kind of the opposite of that. So you get oud, definitely. You get that kind of almost metallic funk, a little bit of the cheesy barnyard element. It definitely is kind of a synthetic oud. It doesn't smell real to me. It's not that intense. There is that leatheriness, but it's also got these really gorgeous, like salty mineral notes on the top that do make you think of a temple by the ocean. So it's kind of a grey scene of, you know, an arid hot day that's overcast. There's a temple on the cliffs and the waves are smashing against the gigantic jagged rocks. It's really nice. It's also got kind of industrial feel. If anybody's tried some of Francis Kurkdjian's ouds for Maison Francis Kurkdjian, his own brand, he did one which was Oud Velvet Mood, I think it was. And that had kind of an industrial feel to it. It was kind of hot glass and metal and skyscrapers. And this has a touch of that, but it's much softer. And I think it's a good one to end on because it just shows you that even now in perfumery, when you think there is nothing new, there can be something actually that takes you by surprise. And if you'd said to me a couple of years ago, well, people are going to start doing aquatic ouds, I would have said, well, of course they are, because oud, you know, there's every type of oud. But if you told me they're going to do one that was nice, I would have probably laughed in your face. Yep. I'd be wrong, because this is lovely. So there you go. That's my 6 scents for summer 2017. As always, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Have you tried any of these fragrances? Do you like any of them? Do you think they're garbage? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if there's anything else that you want me to do, anything you want me to review, any video themes you want me to do, or you want to give me some feedback because I'm new at this, then I am more than open to that. Just be nice, please, because I'm very sensitive. I'll be back in another week with another video. Wednesday, I think, is going to be my posting day, so I'm going to try and do a video for every Wednesday. I've got some really exciting new things coming up that I'll be reviewing, some new stuff from Comme des Garçons and Jean-Paul Gaultier in the fullness of time, so do look out for those. In the meantime, you can subscribe. There, my face should be there. Touch my face and you can subscribe. And I will smell you later.